my goal here is to try to shed some light on them and see if we can clear some things up. I have a series of yes or no questions for you, sir. Before the COVID vaccine, Moderna had never had a vaccine approved. Is that correct?
That's correct, Senator.
Yes or no, BARDA provided Moderna $1.7 billion to support clinical trials related to COVID vaccine?
That's correct, Senator.
And yes or no, the federal government promised and provided $10 billion in guaranteed advance purchase orders if Moderna successfully developed a vaccine?
That discussion happened later, Senator. It was different from the BARDA discussion.
That sounds like a long way of saying yes.
Okay.
Is the answer to that question yes or no?
Can you repeat the question, please, sir?
Yes or no, the federal government promised and provided $10 billion in guaranteed advance purchase orders if Moderna successfully developed a vaccine?
It was actually in tranche, Senator. It was not 10 billion at the beginning. The government started by ordering 100 million and had the right to order more.
We can have a disagreement there. I think if I go back and look at the facts here, the federal government guaranteed $10 billion. We can, if you'd like some time to clear that up, I can submit a question to the record. Yes or no, that deal allowed Moderna to secure early supplies of component parts to speed up production?
Actually, no, Senator. We had to raise capital in the public market in May of 2020, 1.3 billion.
Did getting a 10 billion guarantee help you raise more money from the market?
We did not have that guarantee. That the purchase agreement.
Okay, I'm going to move on. I appreciate that. So you disagree with the question that I asked?
Yes.
Okay. Despite the federal government investing early and heavily in Moderna, the federal government has been repeatedly asked to increase its payment per dose. Yes or no, the federal government most recently bought boosters from Moderna at about $26?
I think that's correct, sir.
For the record, the $26 price represents a 73% increase in the price per dose compared to the last purchase the general government made in June of 2021 when it was $16.52 per dose?
That is because of a discount, sir. As I mentioned, we provided a discount for the initial purchase equivalent to $2.9 billion of discount to reimburse BARDA, which is why the initial price in 2020 was much lower.
I appreciate you sharing that response, Mr. Bancel. I've heard it a few times today. Pharmaceutical companies set the price. There's been a whole conversation about this. There's a low price, then there's a lowest price, and then there's a brokered price, and then there's a discount price, but you still make money. So I'd like to have another hearing maybe on that, Mr. Chairman, so that we understand indeed what the lowest price is. Because if there's a low price and then there's a discount offered, the company agrees through negotiation to offer the discounted price, and I'm certain you're still making money on that. Now, that may be my bias and my very elementary understanding of a very complex industrial complex here, but nonetheless, I'd like to move on there and very much appreciate your explanation of the discount and pointing that to the $26 and $16.52. While a huge purchaser like the federal government likely received a discount for bulk, which you just described, smaller purchasers were still paying a higher price. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
And they were paying $37 per dose or $32 to $37 per dose. Does that sound correct?
Which customer, Senator?
The volume purchasers.
Outside the U.S., you mean? Because in the
Yes.
U.S., we had only one customer of the
Yes.
U.S. government. Outside the U.S., it depends on volume, yes.
Yet Moderna announced that it plans to sell the vaccine in commercial market from $110 to $130, which is a 400% increase. Is that correct?
That's the price we're intending to sell it at.
So there's still about 30% of Americans that Moderna estimates will still need a shot. That's a lot of people. And in 2002, yes or no, Mr. Bancel, Moderna matched the $3.3 billion it spent on research and development with $3.3 billion in stock buyback?
In 2022, yeah, it's correct, sir.
Now, Jamie Dimon, who's the CEO of Chase, some of you may know who he is, he once described stock buybacks as one of the last uses of excess capital, particularly after investing in growth. I'm trying to understand the statements that have been put forth by Moderna here. According to your last call earning, you have $18 billion cash on hand, and you plan to only spend $4.5 billion on additional R&D over the next year. For a company that has never had a commercial drug product before the COVID vaccine, that's a lot of profit. And where I'll conclude here, Mr. Chairman, is I support people doing well and profits in this regard. This was a national pandemic, and I'm sorry, people are still getting sick and dying from COVID. That's real. Whether people want to admit that or not, that's real. This just seems, it's hard for me to understand here. The cash you're sitting on, your projections, looking at what the US government did, not just with investment, but accelerated treatment when it came to attention to approving a drug that was going to save people's lives. And I appreciate everyone that was responsible for this. I'm just having a hard time with this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Lujan. I'm going to ask some additional questions, then give the mic over to Senator Cassidy.